Well, obviously disappointed in really our fourth quarter performance last week, and our second half performance to some extent. We jumped out there to a good lead and then didn't finish in the second half. And that comes, solely back on my shoulders. We've got to do a better job of preparing these men to finish and to do their job and do what is expected. Credit goes to Austin P. They came out and had a great game plan in the second half, and we've got to do a better job of executing. And so we'll go back to work today. We went back actually yesterday, but we'll go back to work heavy today and get after it and get ready for a 3-1 Southern Utah team who's going to come in here looking for a win. And we better be ready to go. We got an experienced quarterback. It's be his third year starting. They're big up front on the offensive line, and defensively, they're a multiple scheme team. So excited to be back in Roy Kidd Stadium, and hopefully we'll have another great turnout from our fans. Kentucky's down in Oxford, so there's no excuse not to be in Richmond this weekend and cheering on the Colonels. With that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Coach, the week before, you guys had some lulls, couldn't get certain things going in the right way, and then it happened again in the second half. What do you credit some of that to, where you have some offensive utility?
Well, I think some of that is, teams are getting a beat on what we do, obviously, and who we do it with, and we've got to continue to create different matchups for them with our receivers. But it comes down, and I harp on this a lot, and I don't want to make it a point to where our team doesn't believe, but we have to be able at times just to hand the ball off and get 4 to 6 yards, and 4 yards is really what you're looking for, but sometimes you need to get a little more and have confidence in doing that. And we're just not right. We're just not there right now. And that's on us as coaches. That's on players. It's a combination of both. I think when we do that offensively, it helps us. Our offense has been humming for the most part. I mean, you look at the first 3 games, we've scored in the 40s every game, or high 30s. And this was the one game that we didn't do that. We scored 1 touchdown, missed 2 field goals, and makeable field goals, and that's unexcusable too. So we've got to come out and play better, execute better, and do a better job.
Coach, there were some big plays on both sides of the ball. Talk about what your message is to the team, not to have to rely on those big plays, and maybe try to put some drives together. What are you saying to them to kind of work through that as we get ready for another home game?
Well, I think, you never want to discourage explosives, because explosives are what makes drives happen. Most people look at the explosive play battle to see why you win and lose. And that's why we lost in the second half. I mean, they had more explosive than we did. And that's why they were able to come back. If we'd have matched half of what they did, we'd have won the football game. But we didn't. And that's a credit, like I said, a credit goes to them. They stopped us on defense, and we didn't execute well on offense. And so, and then I think after a while, our defense got tired towards the end of the game, with 86 snaps played. But I don't want to discredit what our defense did. They did a great job. But there was 5 plays that could have been made and should have been made. And because of missed assignments, they made plays. And that's how football goes. That's no different than what happened, at other places where wins and losses happen. We have to eliminate those mistakes. We have to eliminate the I got to make a play syndrome and do our job syndrome. And on offense, we have to, when the play comes, we have to make it. I mean, we had 2 or 3 drops that were critical, and they contested catches, and we've got to make those things.
How did this game come about in Southern Utah? Was there a connection, or were you just both looking for games? What happened there?
I think we were both looking for games, but I also think the connection is Matt Roan, our athletic director, played there and graduated from there. And I think when they were looking for a game and we were looking for a game and they said they would come out, we said, okay, come on. And I remember I want to say it was the beginning of last year when he called me and asked me if it was okay to play. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. First of all, I said, how good are they? And this, that, and the other. And, I didn't mean that. I don't mean that in any disrespect. I just didn't know a lot about them. And then I said, you sure they're FCS? So, yeah, let's play. And so, Matt put that thing together, and so they're on their way.
Coach, it's always important to win, obviously, but how important is it this week? Coming off a loss, back at home, crowd, the Millstone Festival going to be in town. So how important is it to come out and put on a good show this Saturday to kind of keep the momentum that you guys have had for that first home game?
Well, I think it's always important to win at home, and I think you want to go undefeated at home. That's something a lot of people talk about. That's something that we talk about. I mean, it's important because your home fans, you're where you're comfortable, you're where you're used to your routine, you're where you're used to everything. So no disrespect to anybody, but we need to get it back in the win column. I mean, we're 2-2. It's not like we're sitting here in desperation mode. I mean, it's 2-2, and there's a lot of football left to be played, just like I told our team Saturday night. Well, now we don't control our destiny right now in the ASUN, but we do control our destiny as far as, do we want to go to the playoffs? Do we want to do things that we need to do? And do we want to give ourselves an opportunity maybe to be in the ASUN hunt at the end of the year? I mean, that was the first ASUN game ever, technically. So I think we got plenty of time to be the team that I think we can be, and I think everybody thinks we can be. But we got to understand, when you're on that, climbing is hard to do, and people are going to have targets on you when you beat a team like Bowling Green, and when you're coming in ranked, and when you're doing those things, and you have to commit to being that team, and commit to being the people that it takes to play well in those games, and everybody's going to give you your best shot, not just because of your ranking and your record, but also because you're Eastern Kentucky. And there's a stigma that goes with that, and then a responsibility that goes with that. And we have to continue to learn that and fight against that.
You talked about wanting to run the football and making it a point to get 4 yards. How do you relay that to your team without making it a pressure point to where they think, man, if we can't run it, it's going to add some more pressure to Parker or to the receivers, or just try to do something they can't do maybe well right now?
Well, I think it's part of what we want to do on offense. It's not anything else that it's not something new. We want to be able to run the football. Now, I love that we throw the ball around. I love that Parker we're blessed to have Parker, and he's as good as he is, and our receivers are playing as well as they are, but in our tight end. But we have to be able to, we have to be balanced, have to have some balance, or teams are going to slant one way or the other, right? And so that's what we have to do. And sometimes when you can take a little time off the clock and you can tighten down the secondary a little bit, those shots over the top are a whole lot, easier when that's happening. The coverage is off a little more. The box is packed more. So when we spread them out, they got to make a choice. They're going to play man, they're going to play zone. What are they going to do? So I don't look at it as a pressure point, other than there's things we do well and there's things we do bad. Just like on, Georgia's football team, there's things they do well and there's things they do bad. We have to always correct the things that we're not doing well to get better, and try to continue to improve on the things that we do well. I don't ever want it to be a burden to them. I want it to be a pride factor that, hey, we've got to continue to be the best versions of ourselves.
Braedon, we talked about, some of the explosive plays with Coach Wells, and there really hasn't been opportunities for some of those in the run game. So far you've got the long run of 22. Parker's had some big run plays, but the consistency hasn't been there. What are you all doing right now to kind of correct that for this home game? And what do you see out there that needs to be corrected to kind of help maybe facilitate some of those bigger explosive plays in the run game?
Just in the run game, it really just starts with the O-line. Just them getting to their spots and targeting where they need to target and getting to where they need to get to. And then it comes to us with hitting the holes, hitting the right holes, and making moves in the secondary. I feel like we do a decent job of finding those, but sometimes we might miss them or whatever happens. But it's just really just getting starting with the O-line, getting to the targets, and then us just finishing the run.
Braedon, what do you feel like is the like what's going on when you're having these lulls in the scoring? Are you feeling like the defense is catching up to you, or is it something else going on offense?
I feel like sometimes it is with the defense, and it's also with us too. Just kind of we got to stay consistent and not really get comfortable. I guess coming out, I feel like we had a couple of big plays here and there, but we can't just rely on the big plays. It's just got to be consistent, drive the ball down the field, and when we get in the red zone, we just got to convert in the red zone, and get in situations where we can score. We just need to take advantage of those.
Braedon, another home game this week. The crowd in that first week was electric, and the same thing I asked Coach. How important is it to kind of keep that consistency at home and keep winning to keep these fans engaged?
It's real important to win at home. Like Coach said, just winning at home, trying to go undefeated. You always talk about Roy Kidd Stadium and how significant, just like the historic part of that is, and just coming in and protecting our home turf. And like you said, the crowd was electric. And in the last game, I forgot, maybe what was it, 16, 17,000 people. Just we feel that, and we kind of feed off that to a certain extent, and that just really helps us.
All right, Jeremy, it's been an interesting first 4 games for you guys. I know Coach Wells and you've, worked a lot together, and you've really tried to work on your game these first couple of, or the first 4 weeks. Talk about what you've been able to do and what you've really learned as far as game action goes in these first 4 games.
Yeah, of course. I've obviously had a very close relationship with the coaches over the last few weeks. Just trying to kind of settle into it and everything. Up there at Eastern Michigan was actually the first American football game that I've watched from start to finish, and I ended up playing in it. So it was a bit of a different dynamic going out there on the field and kind of getting set. And I feel like I had a few inconsistencies over the first 2 weeks, just kind of getting used to it. But then coming back home and kind of having that familiarity about being on our home field and with our home crowd and everything kind of got me a bit more settled and got me a bit more in my groove out there. And I found like I've kind of found my legs and found what works. And now I'm getting a lot more kind of comfortable behind the ball and getting to work out there. So.
Sorry if you've talked about this a lot, especially around Richmond, but just tell me your story of how, what intrigued you about American football. Did you go to one of those schools, I guess, to help you learn it when you were out in Australia?
Yeah, of course. So basically, I grew up playing Australian rules football, and I was no good at that, but I could kick the ball a fair distance. So I was sitting on the couch one day watching the NFL on TV, and I thought, I reckon I could give that a go. So I sent out an email to Pro Kick Australia, and went down there for a trial. Ended up training with those guys for 18 months, and they taught me everything I know. So I wouldn't be here today without them. So all the credit goes to those guys. But yeah, trained with them down in Melbourne for 3 times a week for 18 months, and I was lucky enough to get the scholarship to come here, and came over and develop my skills and really fine tune everything with Coach McKeithen and Coach Wells over here, and never looked back since. Absolutely loving it over here and learning this new dynamic and getting to explore this new sport. So it's amazing. I'm absolutely loving it.
We've really had an influx lately of Australian kickers coming over. How many of them do you know, and how much have you relied on talking to them?
Yeah, I know quite a few at multiple FCS schools around, all the way up to the punter in Alabama. So I'm pretty close knit with all those guys, and we keep in contact quite often. So it's good to kind of see the different dynamics and the different woes that everyone's going through. I feel like everyone struggles at one point or another. So it's good to have those guys to rely on and kind of have that experience that they can send you a message and say like, hey mate, I watched the game from the weekend. These are the things that I noticed you weren't doing right. Maybe shorten those steps or bring that hand a little bit more inside so you hit the ball straight across the laces instead. So it's really good having those guys, and also having the coaches back home. I'm in contact with Nathan Chapman and John Smith quite a bit, just to fine tune my craft and send them film back and forth, and they come across and jump on Zooms with me and FaceTimes just to kind of perfect everything that I'm doing to make sure that I'm still doing my job.
Jordan Berry was back on campus. Did he talk with you? And if so, what was his advice?
Yeah, me and Jordo actually had quite a good relationship over the summertime. We got in contact quite a bit, and we were kicking together anywhere from one or two times a week. So it was absolutely amazing to have someone with his experience and his history come down and kind of fine tune some more things there in person. And I would say he helped head and shoulders. Like, it was some of the stuff that he gave me was just gold. Like, being actually there and him being able to change my technique or change my steps around or move my hand wherever he needed to, it was perfect. So me and him have got quite a good relationship, and we catch up quite a bit. He came down to the first home game too, which was nice to have a familiar face there and have a fellow Australian in the crowds.
And then last one for me, do you know his brother as well? And how about Max Duffy? Any relationship with those two?
Yeah. I was actually good mates with his brother before I came over. So we hung out quite a bit down in Melbourne, and I got to watch him and his journey and come over to Kentucky. So I'm hoping to scoot up to a Kentucky game on the bye weekend and maybe catch up with him. And just kind of like see what the whole dynamic is up there at Kroger Field. I didn't know Max Duffy, but he was a huge name through the program when I was there back at Pro Kick Australia. He was always talked about, and obviously the Ray Guy winner, so you can't get much better than that, I suppose.
Jeremy, you talked about, your first game actually against Eastern Michigan. What goes through your mind when, you drop back there for that first time and you see these guys running at you? So what's going through your mind in that aspect?
Yeah, mate, honestly, I have no idea. I can't even tell you. I just kind of got out there and blacked out. And my first punt was definitely one to forget. It was a shocker. So it came off the side of the foot, and I think I just rushed myself a bit much and wasn't really expecting it as to be that kind of intimidating out there. I don't really get nervous before games or anything. So it was to kind of stand out there and look around. It was spectacular. And then when the ball came off the foot, I kind of put my head down and thought, oh, okay, now I need to try to actually do what I'm here to do, as opposed to looking around and enjoying the scenery.
We're getting into that stage now where it's going to be cold in Kentucky. Is it a little bit different than what it's like back home?
Yeah, well, the seasons have flipped back home. So when I got here at the start of the year, I came from like 110 degrees back home, and I got off the plane in Chicago in shorts and a t-shirt. So that was quite a bit of a shock in the start of February in Chicago. But the summer here was brilliant. I'm quite a fan of the cold weather, so it doesn't really affect me too much. Our seasons back home run through the winter, and we run around in shorts and a singlet top. So it's pretty nippy back there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, getting the cold weather back and getting out there and running around a bit more.